This morning, before the sun was fully up, I lay in bed and did something I have done for many years. I thanked my bed for holding me through the night. I felt the softness of the sheets against my skin, and I marveled at how comfortable I was, how safe, how warm. Then I looked at my hands, really looked at them, and I was filled with wonder that after all this time, after all these years, they still work so beautifully. These hands that have held so many other hands, that have written so many words, that have wiped away so many tears, both my own and others. I smiled, not because anything wonderful had happened yet. The day had barely begun. But because I had remembered something most people forget. I am alive. My heart is beating. This day has never existed before. It belongs entirely to me, and I get to decide what to do with it. By the time I walked into my kitchen to make my morning tea, I had already collected 3 reasons to feel joy, and I had not even started my day yet. This is not natural talent, dear one. This is not something I was born with. This is a skill I learned, and it is a skill you can learn too. You see, there was a time in my life when mornings felt like a burden, when waking up meant facing another day of struggle, another day of pain, another day of wondering when things would finally get better. I know what it feels like to open your eyes and wish you could close them again. I know what it feels like to look at the day ahead and see nothing but problems, nothing but obstacles, nothing but more of the same disappointment you experienced yesterday. But I also know something else now, something that changed everything for me, and that is what I want to share with you today. Let me tell you why this matters so much, why I feel so strongly that you need to hear what I am about to share. Most of the world is waiting for happiness. Think about that for a moment. Millions and millions of people, beautiful souls just like you, are waiting for the right job to come along, waiting for the relationship that will finally make them feel complete, waiting for the health crisis to resolve, waiting for the children to grow up, waiting for the mortgage to be paid off, waiting for retirement, waiting, always waiting for some future moment when life will finally cooperate and happiness will be allowed to arrive. We have been taught this lie since we were children. We were told that joy is a destination, something we earn after enough struggle, something that will finally show up when our lives look a certain way. When we have enough money, when we find the right partner, when we lose the weight, when we get the promotion, when the pain stops. But here is the truth that no one tells you, the truth that I wish someone had told me decades earlier than I discovered it for myself. Joy is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. Joy is available right now, in this very moment, regardless of your circumstances, not because your problems do not matter. They do matter. Your pain is real, your struggles are valid, your challenges are genuine. But joy and problems have always been able to exist in the same room. We have simply never been taught how to let them coexist. What I am going to share with you today is not positive thinking in the way most people understand it. I am not going to ask you to deny your pain, to paste a smile over your struggles, or to pretend everything is fine when it is clearly not. That kind of forced positivity is exhausting, and it ultimately fails. I have seen people try it, and I have seen them give up because it feels like a lie, and the soul cannot sustain itself on lies. What I am offering you is something different, something deeper, something that actually works because it is rooted in truth rather than denial. I am offering you a way of seeing, a practice for your mind that allows you to notice what has been there all along. The small blessings that pile up unnoticed every single day, the moments of grace hiding inside your ordinary routines, the smile that is waiting inside the very day you are calling difficult. This is not about becoming a different person. This is about becoming more of who you already are. Because here is what I know after all my years of working with people, after all my years of studying the mind and the heart, after all my years of healing my own wounds. At your core, you are not broken. You are not damaged goods. You are not someone who has to earn the right to be happy. You are a beloved child of the universe who has simply forgotten how much there is to smile about. By the end of our time together today, you will have practical tools to find genuine joy in any day, no matter what it contains. You will understand why gratitude is not just a nice idea, but a healing practice as powerful as any medicine. And you will leave with affirmations that can transform the very texture of your daily experience. This is not about living in denial. It is about living in truth. The deeper truth that life, even at its hardest, is also unbearably beautiful. The truth that every single day, without exception, brings you something to smile about. You have simply been looking in the wrong places, or you have not been looking at all. So let us begin. Let us begin with a story, because stories have a way of opening the heart when the mind wants to stay closed. Let me take you back to a morning that changed the entire direction of my life. I was lying in a hospital bed. The diagnosis had come: cancer. That word that strikes fear into so many hearts, that word that feels like a death sentence even before you understand what it really means. And I remember staring at the ceiling, feeling the kind of fear that makes your whole body cold. My mind was racing through every worst-case scenario, every memory of people I had known who did not survive, every regret about things I had not done, words I had not said, love I had not given freely enough. In that moment, I felt like I had nothing to smile about, nothing at all. My life as I knew it seemed to be ending. All my plans, all my hopes, all my dreams for the future felt like they were being snatched away. And the fear was so loud inside me that I could barely hear anything else. A nurse came in to check on me. She was an older woman with kind eyes and hands that moved with the practiced gentleness that comes from years of caring for people in their most vulnerable moments. As she adjusted my IV, she paused and looked at me, really looked at me, not at my chart, not at my diagnosis, not at the problem she had been sent to solve. She looked at me, the person, the soul lying in that bed. And she said something I will never forget for as long as I live. She said, "You know what I noticed about you when I first came in this morning? You have the most beautiful light in your eyes. Even now, I can see it." I almost laughed out loud. Light in my eyes? I was terrified. I was possibly dying. I had spent the night crying and bargaining with God and wondering what I had done wrong to deserve this. What light could she possibly be seeing? But something about the way she said it made me pause. She was not offering false comfort or empty optimism. She was not trying to make me feel better with meaningless platitudes. She was simply reporting what she observed, stating a fact as she perceived it, and for just a moment, just one tiny moment, I saw myself through her eyes instead of through the lens of my fear. That tiny shift in perspective cracked something open in me, something I did not even know had been sealed shut. Later that day, alone in my room, I began to do something I had not done in a very long time. I started to look for things to appreciate. Not big things, not miraculous things, not things that would make my cancer go away or solve all my problems, just small, quiet truths that I had been too afraid to notice. The sheets on my bed were clean and soft. Someone had washed them and folded them and placed them there for me to lie upon. That was a kindness. A small kindness performed by someone I would never meet, someone who did their job so that I could be comfortable. I noticed that, really noticed it, for perhaps the first time in my life. Outside my window, I could see a tree. Just one ordinary tree, nothing special about it at all. But its leaves were moving in the breeze, doing their gentle dance the way leaves have been dancing since long before humans existed. And for a moment I watched them, really watched them, and I thought how beautiful it was. That was beauty, available to me for free, asking nothing in return but my attention. My body, even though it was frightened and hurting and under attack from something I could not see, was still breathing. still fighting, still here. Every cell in my body was working to keep me alive, to heal, to restore balance. My body had not given up on me. That was remarkable. That was actually miraculous, when I stopped to think about it. And before I knew what was happening, I felt the corners of my mouth lift, just slightly, not a big, beaming smile, just a small turning upward that came from somewhere inside me that I had forgotten existed. Not because my problems had gone away. They were all still there, as real and as frightening as before. The diagnosis was still the same. The uncertainty was still the same. Nothing external had changed in those few moments of looking for things to appreciate. But something internal had shifted, and in that shift, I found something else, something that had been there all along, waiting for me to notice. That was the day I began to understand something that would become the foundation of everything I teach. You cannot wait for your life to give you reasons to smile. You have to train your mind to find them. They are always there, always, in every situation, in every circumstance, in every moment of every day, even in the hospital, even in the fear, even in the darkest night of the soul. From that day forward, I made a decision. Every morning, no matter what was happening in my life, I would find at least 3 things to appreciate before my feet touched the floor. 3 small reasons to feel grateful for being alive. 3 seeds of joy that I would plant before the day had even begun. Some mornings, this was easy. The sun would be shining through my window, I would feel good in my body, life would seem to be cooperating with my plans. On those mornings, finding 3 things to appreciate was effortless. I could find 30 things without trying. But other mornings, and there were many of these, finding those 3 things required real effort, real searching, real discipline. On those mornings, when pain was present, or fear was loud, or circumstances seemed impossible, I had to dig deeper. I had to look harder. I had to choose to find the good even when everything in me wanted to focus on what was wrong. On those difficult mornings, I would start with the most basic things. The fact that I could still see, the miracle of hot water for my tea, the memory of someone who had loved me once, even if they were no longer in my life, the simple fact that I had woken up at all, that my heart had kept beating through the night without any conscious effort on my part. What I discovered through this daily practice is that the practice itself was the healing, not waiting for circumstances to change, not hoping for things to get better, not bargaining with the universe for a different life, but actively, deliberately, consistently choosing to notice what was good right now, in this very moment. And here is what amazed me. The more I practiced, the more there was to find. It was as if gratitude had a multiplication property. Once I started looking for reasons to smile, they began to reveal themselves everywhere. Things I had walked past 1,000 times without noticing suddenly caught my attention. Kindnesses I had taken for granted suddenly felt precious. Ordinary moments suddenly shimmered with meaning. That is how I healed. Not through willpower alone, not through denial of my pain, but through the daily discipline of turning my attention toward what was beautiful, what was working, what was still possible. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. You are thinking that it is easy for me to say these things now, looking back on a cancer I survived, speaking from the other side of that fear. What about those days when nothing seems beautiful? What about the moments when pain is so loud that gratitude feels not just difficult, but impossible? What about when life has knocked you down so hard that you cannot imagine ever getting back up? Let me tell you about a woman I met, and what she taught me about the hidden doorways to joy. Years after my own healing, I was teaching a workshop in a small room filled with people who had come looking for change. Most of them were hopeful, open, ready to try something new. They sat forward in their chairs, took notes, nodded along as I spoke. I could feel their willingness, their desire to transform their lives. but in the back row sat a woman who looked like she had not smiled in years. Her arms were crossed tight against her chest like armor. Her face was set in stone, her jaw clenched, her eyes challenging. Everything about her body language said one thing loud and clear: I do not believe you, and nothing you say will change that. During a break, she approached me. Her name was Margaret, and she had come because her daughter had begged her to. Had bought her the ticket, driven her to the event, practically pushed her through the door. Margaret had not wanted to come. She had not wanted to hear about positive thinking or gratitude or any of that, as she put it, nonsense. I don't believe in this stuff, she told me flatly, her voice as hard as her expression. I've had too much go wrong in my life to pretend it hasn't happened. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm grateful when I'm not. That would be a lie, and I'm too old for lying. I looked at her for a long moment. I saw the pain in her eyes, deep and old and settled in like a permanent resident. I saw the exhaustion. I saw the years of disappointment that had hardened into cynicism. Layer upon layer of protection built up around a heart that had been hurt too many times. And I understood. I had been there myself. I knew what it felt like to be so worn down by life that hope itself seemed like a cruel joke. Tell me, I said gently, what has gone wrong? For the next 20 minutes, Margaret told me her story. A childhood marked by criticism and neglect, where nothing she did was ever good enough, where love was conditional and constantly withheld. A marriage that had started with promise but ended in betrayal, leaving her feeling foolish for ever having trusted. A career that never materialized the way she had dreamed, leaving her feeling like a failure. Health problems that seemed to multiply with each passing year, each new diagnosis adding another weight to the burden she already carried. Her list of grievances was long, and each one was real, each one was valid. I did not dismiss any of it, did not try to minimize her pain or convince her that things were not as bad as she thought. Her suffering was genuine, and she deserved to have it witnessed. When she finished, I asked her a question that surprised her. Margaret, in all of those years, in all of that difficulty, was there ever a single moment, even just one, when something made you smile? Not a big smile, not a fake smile, just a moment when something brought you even a tiny bit of joy? She started to say no. The word was already forming on her lips, automatic, defensive. Then she stopped. Her face softened, just for an instant, just barely, like a crack appearing in a wall of ice. There was a dog, she said quietly, her voice suddenly different, younger somehow. When I was a little girl, a stray that used to come to our back door. He was scrappy and dirty and nobody else wanted him, but I loved him. I would sneak him scraps from dinner when my parents were not looking, and he would wag his tail like I was the most wonderful person in the world. Like I was everything he had ever hoped for. How did that feel? I asked. She was quiet for a moment, lost somewhere in that memory, somewhere far from this room and this day and all the years of hardship that had piled up between then and now. It felt. She paused, searching for the word, finding it somewhere deep inside herself. It felt like I mattered, like I was worth something. Like somebody, even if it was just a stray dog, was glad that I existed. That feeling, I said, is still available to you, not because the dog is still here, but because you carry the capacity for that feeling inside you. It never left. It has just been buried under everything that came after. Something shifted in Margaret's eyes. Not belief, exactly, not yet, but curiosity, a small opening, like a door cracked just wide enough to let a sliver of light through. Over the next few days of the workshop, I watched Margaret begin to experiment. At first, her attempts to find things to appreciate were awkward, forced, almost painful to witness. She would notice something, a ray of sunlight falling across her hand, the taste of her morning coffee, the softness of the sweater she was wearing, and immediately dismiss it. That doesn't count, she would say. That's too small, that's nothing. And each time, I would gently correct her. The small things are exactly what count. The big things, the miraculous things, the life-changing moments, those are rare. They happen maybe a handful of times in a lifetime, if we are lucky. But the small things are everywhere. Every single day is filled with them, more than we could ever count. If you cannot find joy in the small things, you will spend most of your life waiting for joy that never comes. By the last day of the workshop, something had changed in Margaret. She was still skeptical, still cautious, still carrying all that armor she had built up over the years. But there was a new light in her eyes. A light that reminded me, in fact, of what that nurse had seen in me all those years ago in my hospital bed. During our final session, when I asked if anyone wanted to share their experience, Margaret's hand went up. I was surprised, but I called on her, and she stood slowly, like someone who was not used to being looked at and was not sure she wanted to be. "I did something this morning," she said, her voice wavering, "that I have not done in years. I woke up, and before I got out of bed, I said thank you, just thank you. I do not even know who I was saying it to, maybe God, maybe the universe, maybe just myself, but I meant it, and when I said it, I felt this warmth spread through my chest. Like something that had been frozen for a very long time was starting to thaw, and I realized." She paused, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. I realized I was smiling. The room was silent. Several people were crying. I felt my own heart swelling with love for this woman who had walked in so closed and was standing here now, opening. "I do not know if I believe everything you teach," Margaret continued, looking at me with those newly softened eyes. "I am not going to pretend I've been converted or that all my problems are solved or that I'm suddenly going to become some positive thinking guru. But I believe that feeling. I believe what I felt this morning when I said thank you, and I believe I can find it again. That is all I ever ask of anyone. Not that they accept my philosophy wholesale, not that they abandon their doubts overnight, not that they pretend to be something they are not, but that they try, that they give themselves permission to notice what is good even when so much is not." Margaret and I kept in touch for years afterward. She sent me letters and later emails telling me about her progress. She never became what anyone would call an optimist. That was not her nature, and I never asked her to change her nature. But she became something better than an optimist. She became someone who could find moments of genuine joy in the midst of an imperfect life. She became someone who could smile, really smile, because she had learned to look for reasons to. She told me once, in one of her letters, that she had started keeping what she called a smile journal. Every evening, she would write down one thing from that day that had made her smile. Just one thing. Some days it was easy, and she would write down 2 or 3 things because she could not choose. Other days she would sit for 10 minutes trying to think of something, anything. But she always found at least one thing, always. "You were right," she wrote. "They are always there, the reasons to smile. I just had to learn how to see them." Margaret's story raises a question that I think is very important. If joy is available to us even in difficult circumstances, why do we resist it so strongly? Why does the mind seem so determined to focus on what is wrong? Why is it so much easier to notice problems than to notice blessings? I want to tell you a story now. It is not about a real person, but it contains a truth I have seen play out in countless lives, including my own. Imagine 2 neighbors who live side by side. They have identical houses, identical backyards, even identical plots of soil. Each one decides to plant a garden. The first neighbor looks at her plot and sees only problems. The soil is rocky, the sunlight is inconsistent, blocked by trees for part of the day. There are weeds already beginning to sprout, and she has not even started planting yet. She spends most of her time complaining about these conditions, waiting for them to improve. If only the soil were better. If only there were more sun. If only the weeds would stop coming back. Occasionally, She plants a seed, but when it does not immediately flourish, when it struggles or looks weak, she gives up. "What is the point?" she says. "The conditions are not right. I will try again when things are better." The second neighbor looks at the same rocky soil, the same inconsistent sunlight, the same weeds. She sees all of these things. She does not pretend they are not there. But instead of focusing on what is wrong, she gets curious about what might grow despite these conditions. She removes the weeds, not with anger, not with resentment, but with acceptance. They are part of the process. Gardens have always had weeds. That is just how gardens work. She chooses seeds that can thrive in challenging environments, plants that do not need perfect conditions to flourish. She waters them faithfully, not knowing which ones will sprout, but trusting that some of them will. A year passes. The first neighbor's yard looks much the same as it always did. A few scraggly plants have survived despite her neglect, but she barely notices them. She is too busy cataloging everything that has gone wrong. The weeds have taken over. The soil is still rocky. The sunlight is still inconsistent. She feels justified in her original assessment. She knew this would not work. She was right all along. The second neighbor's yard has become a garden, not a perfect garden, not the garden she had originally imagined in her head, the one from the magazines with perfectly arranged flowers and not a weed in sight. But a garden nonetheless, full of unexpected colors, hardy plants that learn to flourish in difficult soil, vegetables that taste even sweeter for the struggle they endured. There is beauty here, real beauty, growing in the midst of imperfect conditions. Now, here is the most important part of this story. Both neighbors had the same raw materials, the same soil, the same conditions, the same challenges. The only difference was where they placed their attention and what they chose to nurture. This is exactly how the mind works, dear one. Your life, like that plot of soil, contains both difficulties and possibilities, both weeds and seeds, both problems and blessings. The question is not whether your life contains problems. Of course it does. Everyone's does. Every single person who has ever lived has had problems. That is not what separates the happy from the unhappy. The question that determines everything is this: what are you watering? Every thought you think is like water. When you spend your day noticing what is wrong, complaining about your circumstances, rehearsing old grievances, remembering past hurts, you are watering the weeds. You are feeding the very things you wish would disappear. But when you choose, deliberately and consistently, to notice what is good, to appreciate small blessings, to celebrate tiny victories, to find reasons to smile even in difficult days, you are watering the seeds. You are nurturing what you want to grow. This is not about pretending the weeds do not exist. They do. I am not asking you to ignore your problems or deny your pain or put on a fake smile when you are hurting inside. That is not what I teach. That has never been what I teach. What I am teaching you is this: you have limited attention, you have limited energy, you have limited time in each day, and you get to decide where to direct these precious resources. The weeds will take care of themselves. They always do. Weeds do not need your help to grow. Problems do not need your attention to persist. Your job is not to obsess over what is wrong. Your job is to focus on what you want to flourish. Every day brings me something to smile about because I have spent years watering the right things. I have trained my mind to scan for beauty, for kindness, for grace. I have practiced noticing what is good until it became automatic, until it became as natural as breathing. And the more I have practiced this, the more my inner garden has flourished. Not because my life is perfect, it is not. Not because I have been spared difficulty, I have not. But because I have learned to nurture what deserves to grow. Some days, I still notice the weeds. I am human, after all. I see the problems. I feel the frustrations. I have moments of worry and doubt and fear. But I no longer spend my whole day pulling at the weeds, cursing them, wishing they were not there. I acknowledge them, and then I turn my attention back to what I want to grow. You can do this too, starting today, starting right now. Not by pretending your problems away, but by choosing, moment by moment, to water what deserves to flourish. Now let us get more specific. Evaluate. How do you feel? Has anything shifted? Are there any signs, however small, that the practice is working? If you notice positive changes, keep going. Add another practice if you feel ready. Build upon the foundation you have created. If you do not notice changes, ask yourself honestly, did you really do the practice every day? Did you do it with genuine attention, or were you just going through the motions? Sometimes what feels like the practice not working is actually the practice not being done fully. Give yourself grace, but also give yourself accountability. These are tools that can transform your life, but only if you use them. I want to talk about one more thing before we close, and that is the ripple effect of your personal transformation. When you change how you think, when you become someone who finds reasons to smile every day, you do not just change your own experience, you change the experience of everyone around you. Think about the people in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers, even the strangers you encounter throughout your day. When you show up as a person filled with gratitude and joy, they feel it. Your energy affects theirs. Your smile invites their smile. Children, especially, are sensitive to this. When a parent or caregiver moves through the world with appreciation and positivity, children learn that this is possible. They learn that life can be approached with joy rather than dread. They learn that even when things are hard, there is still so much to be grateful for. What a gift to give a child! What a gift to give anyone! And the ripples extend beyond the people you know personally. Every act of kindness that flows from your grateful heart touches someone, who then touches someone else, who touches someone else. The smile you give to a stranger might be the thing that shifts their day, and they might pass that shift along to someone else. You are more powerful than you know. Your inner state matters more than you realize. When you do the inner work, when you cultivate joy within yourself, you are contributing to the healing of the entire world. This is not an exaggeration. This is how change happens, not through grand gestures and dramatic interventions, but through countless individuals deciding to show up differently, to think differently, to look for the good instead of dwelling on the bad, to smile instead of scowl. You are part of this movement, whether you realize it or not. Every time you practice gratitude, you are voting for a more grateful world. Every time you speak kindly to yourself, you are voting for a kinder world. Every time you find something to smile about, you are voting for a more joyful world. Never underestimate the power of your own transformation. It matters. It matters more than you can possibly know. So, here we are, dear one, at the end of our time together. But really, this is not an end. This is a beginning. The beginning of a new chapter in your life, if you choose to let it be. I want to remind you of something before we part. You came here today for a reason. Something in you was searching. Something in you knew there had to be more than the way you have been living. Something in you believed that joy was possible, even if you could not quite grasp it. That something is your deepest self, your truest self, the part of you that has never been broken, no matter what has happened, the part of you that knows you deserve love, even when you have forgotten, the part of you that has been waiting patiently for you to remember what you really are. You are a magnificent being. I know you may not feel that way. I know life may have convinced you otherwise. But underneath all the pain, all the disappointment, all the self-doubt, there is a light in you that has never gone out. A light that has been waiting for you to turn toward it. Every time you practice gratitude, you turn toward that light. Every time you speak kindly to yourself, you turn toward that light. Every time you find something to smile about, even on a difficult day, you turn toward that light. And the more you turn toward it, the brighter it becomes. Until one day, you realize that you are that light, that you have always been that light, that nothing and no one could ever extinguish it, because it is who you are at the deepest level. This is what I want for you. This is what I have always wanted for everyone who has ever come to me seeking help. Not just to feel a little better or to get through another day, but to remember the truth of who you are, to reconnect with that magnificent, radiant self that has been there all along. You are so much more than your problems. You are so much more than your past. You are so much more than the critical voice in your head has ever told you. You are a beloved child of the universe. You are worthy of all good things. You are capable of infinite joy. And every single day, without exception, brings you something to smile about, because you are alive, because you are here, because this moment, right now, is full of more miracles than you could ever count. I believe in you. I believe in your capacity to heal, to grow, to transform. I believe that you can do this, that you can change your thoughts and change your life, that you can wake up each morning expecting good things and finding them. The practices I have shared with you today are not complicated. They are simple, almost too simple, which is why so many people dismiss them. But simple does not mean ineffective. Some of the most powerful things in life are the simplest. Water is simple, but it carves canyons. A smile is simple, but it can change a life. A thought is simple, but it can create a destiny. Do not underestimate the power of these simple practices. Do not dismiss them because they seem too easy. Give them a chance to work their magic in your life. Now, I have shared a great deal with you today. We have covered so much ground together. Let me gather it all up and place it gently in your heart. We have discovered that joy is not a destination but a practice. It is not something that happens to you when your life finally cooperates, but something you create through the deliberate choices you make each day. Where you place your attention determines what you experience, and you always, always have the power to choose. We have learned that gratitude is not merely politeness but medicine for the soul. When you practice genuine appreciation, specific, felt, embodied, you are actually changing the chemistry of your body and the pathways of your mind. You are teaching yourself a new way of being in the world. We have seen that ordinary moments contain extraordinary possibilities for joy. The cup of tea, the morning light, the face in the mirror. Every single day brings you something to smile about, if only you have the eyes to see it. And we have gained tools: the morning gratitude ritual, the midday reset, the evening blessing, the practice of mirror work. These are not complicated techniques. They are simply ways of remembering who you really are and what life is really about. I want to leave you with this truth, spoken straight from my heart to yours. You are not broken. You are not damaged goods. You are not someone who has to earn the right to be happy. You are a beloved child of the universe, worthy of all good things, capable of infinite joy. The smile you are looking for is not somewhere else. It is not waiting for your circumstances to change. It is not dependent on other people behaving the way you want them to behave. It is right here, right now, waiting inside this moment. It has been waiting all along. All you have to do is notice. All you have to do is choose. Every day brings me something to smile about. And now, I believe, every day will bring you something to smile about too. Let us say it together. Let it sink deep into your heart, below the doubts, below the fears, into that place where truth lives. Every day brings me something to smile about. Life loves me, and I love my life. And so it is. If what we shared today touched your heart, if you felt something stir inside you, something hopeful, something true, I invite you to like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear these words. There is someone in your life, right now, who is struggling to find reasons to smile. They need to know what you now know. They need to hear what you have heard today. Subscribe to this channel, and we will continue this journey together. There is so much more I want to share with you, so much more wisdom that has transformed my life and the lives of millions of others. And if you have a moment of gratitude today, a reason to smile that you discovered because of our time together, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Tell me what you noticed. Tell me what made you smile. Let us build a community of people who are choosing joy, one moment at a time. Remember, dear one, every single day, you are loved, you are worthy, you are enough, exactly as you are, and something wonderful is waiting for you in every single day. You just have to open your eyes and see it.